I'm gonna love you.
Hey, welcome to Dan's Chess Lounge, everyone. Today I have the penultimate round, round number 9. Hikaru Nakamura faced off against the Hungarian Grandmaster Richard Rapport. Now, Richard Rapport is a very quirky type of player. He'll launch a quick attack right out of the opening, playing unsuspecting moves that's out of book. He won't stick to the book line variations too long. He'll launch some type of sideline attack real fast. That's what he's kind of known for. So a lot of times his opponents will play very solidly in the beginning, and they'll wait for him to mix it up and get real crazy on the board. So he's actually known for for being an original thinker, being very innovative. And a fact about him is that at 13 years old, when he reached GM title, he was the youngest Hungarian grandmaster ever, and he still holds that fact, I guess you could say, as being the youngest Hungarian GM, reaching that title at the age of 13. So let's go ahead and get into the game and see what transpired today. He was white. Nakamura was white. Rapport was black. So we started off with knight f3, the ready, g3, b6, bishop g2, bishop g7, d4, e6, and now you have c4, which is like a transposition into the Queen's Indian defense. Now they kind of backdoored their way into there. They didn't play like the traditional main line to reach the Queen's Indian defense, but it transposed into it. The idea here is that white is going to occupy the center classically with pawns, basically. He's going to fight for the center with pawns, as you can see here with the green squares, whereas black will try to control the center the hyper-modern way with the pieces. As you can see, the bishop and the knight are teaming up on this e4 square. So they'll try to control the center with the pieces. White will do it with the pawns. You have bishop e7, castles. Rook e1 was played in the game. And let me just show you, this is the main line here. Let me just show you a little gambit line that you could play that's going to give you really good initiative, especially at the lower levels. Like if you're not a title player, if your opponent's not a title player, then you're going to score pretty well. If you play here, d5 here, this is a pawn sacrifice. They'll take, e takes d, and now instead of capturing back, you play knight h4. Now what that does is that opens up the long diagonal there where they can't play d takes c because their bishop on b7 is pinned. So then after that, to get out of the pin, they play c6. Now you play c takes d, and then they don't want to destroy their pawn structure, so they take back with the knight. Now you kick the knight with e4, and chances are likely that they'll go back to c6. That's probably the best square for them to go to. Then they can reroute the knight. But now the whole idea behind the pawn sack is now that you can play knight f5 and putting a lot of pressure on that g7 square. You know, you even have things like queen g4 coming up next, or queen h5 coming up next. I mean, it's just a very strong position for white. And so white stands that, okay, hey, I sacked the pawn, but I have this nice initiative for it. And then black's argument is that, hey, you gave me this extra pawn, but you're not going to be able to do anything with it. So it's still a battle. You still have to prove it. So I just want to show you guys that line there to play. In the game, Hikaru played the main line, which is rook e1, which is going to support the eventual e4 pawn push. Now you have a5, expansion on the queen side. Bishop f4. Now you notice that white is avoiding the playing knight c3. He's making these moves like rook e1 and bishop f4, whereas we all know the fundamentals and the principles are develop your knights before bishops, develop your knights early in the game. The reason why Hikaru is waiting to develop that c3 knight is because if you look at the position, black has less space. He's cramped. So as soon as Hikaru plays knight c3, black wants to play his knight to e4 and swap off those knights. That way he'll create some more space for his pieces to maneuver in. So black plays knight a6. Now here you go. White plays knight c3 here. And let's see. As we mentioned, black immediately goes for the knight e4. Hikaru plays knight d2. And then Rapport swaps off the knight as soon as he can. And then you have the bishops here facing each other, but the queen is under attack. So white has to take the knight first. The bishops are swapped off. And now let's reassess the position here. We have white with his pawn structure crippled here. It's no longer perfect and intact. So if the game goes into an end game, black is going to have an advantage with the king and pawn end game. So beating up on the bad pawn structure that white has. Now you have knight b8 with the intention of rerouting the knight to the c6 or d7 square in the near future. Now you have e4. When your opponent is moving backwards, it's a good idea for you to move forward. And that's exactly what Nakamura does. He plays e4, expanding in the center, taking up more space. Now you have d6, because the fight's going to be over the e5 pawn push. d6, excuse me. Knight f3. Now you have a4, which is giving room for the rook for a rook lift. The rook will be able to play along that fifth rank there. And here you have our e5 pawn push in the center. The rook joins in on the fight with a5, queen e2. Now the knight went to c6, which is an interesting square for him to go to. I thought that the knight might have went to d7, that way it wouldn't be in front of their pawn on c7. But c6 is fine. It's participating in the fight for this e5 square, which is where the action is at. Rook d1. Now Rapport exchanges the pawn on e5. The bishop takes. And right here, I just want to say that the reason why Hikaru gave up his bishop here is because he saw that the knight is going to be a much better piece in this game going forward. The bishop doesn't really have a lot of scope here in his position, and he felt like the knight was going to be a better defender of his bad pawn structure here. Because, like I was saying before, if this goes into like a king and pawn endgame, Hikaru's going to have to try to defend these pawns here from attack. And he feels like he can do that better with the knight than the bishop. So now you have knight takes bishop, knight takes, and now queen a8, check. Queen blocks, so now the queens come off the board, and now white wants to go to that beautiful c6 square. Bishop d6, and white moves into that c6 square with his knight, which is a really great square for the knight to be in. It makes it very hard for black to attack his white's weak pawns here. So now you have rook a8. The king is coming to help out with the defense of his pawns. So black says, okay, I'll play a3. That'll give me a little bit more room to attack those pawns. He says, I'll attack those pawns with my rook. And a3 also puts that pawn on a square where it can be defended by his bishop on d6. Here comes the king to help out. Rook a4, hitting the pawn on c4, but the king is just in time. Now you have the other rook on the a file. f4 gains more space, and it also prepares for the launch of these pawns here. King f8, rook f1, getting ready to push f5 potentially. Now you have some play on the king side here. g4, ace takes g, ace takes g, king g7. They're just liquidating down pawns on the king side here. Now the rook goes to h8, and it can harass the king there on d3. This can become very awkward for Hikaru to defend if he doesn't play accurately here. And f6 was played here, and the players actually agreed to a draw at this point here. And the reason behind that is because they felt like there was just no further progress that could be made on the board. Let me show you what might happen here. King f8 might have been played next. And then white would play rook e1, right, with the idea of playing, of course, rook e8 next. Checkmate. So then black would play rook a8, protecting the back rank, and then there would be no further progress after that. And then also there is one blunder here in this position. After white plays f6, please don't play king h6, because then that would be awful, because then white could play rook h4, winning the rook there. So, but the players agreed to a draw, and they're ready to get on to the last round and see what happens. This is Hikaru Nakamura's 4th straight draw. He was on fire in the beginning, winning 5 straight games, and now he's drawn the last 4 games. To his defense, he said that he's not feeling very well though, so he's a little under the weather. Like yesterday, he said that he would have played on further against Wang Hao if he was feeling better, because he felt like he had a better position where he could have got something out of it, but due to not feeling well, he took the draw. And same way here today, he took a draw again today. So you have the big heavy hitters back in the game. It's a big tie at the top of the leaderboard here, and you have MVL and Aronian all tied with Nakamura, for the lead. So we'll see what happens tomorrow in the last round. You have Nakamura as black playing against Aronian. So that's going to be an awesome game there, because Nakamura has already said that he feels like he needs to win tomorrow to get into a playoff, because he feels like a draw is not going to be enough. With so many players tied at 7 points, a draw is not going to be enough to get into a playoff. So he's going to be going all out with black. So I wonder if it'll be a King's Indian defense, because he's one of the best King's Indian players in the world. His attack is vicious. If you guys have not seen that Wesley So game where Hikaru really just crushed Wesley So in the King's Indian defense, please look that up. It's incredible. So, all right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and please subscribe to the channel. Until next time.